I doing 5 o'clock? Yeah, I didn't know I was with you. So, everybody read the minutes?
Yes. Motion to accept.
Can you still read
No,
them?
I wasn't here, so I can't approve them.
Oh, okay, then I'll second the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And next on the agenda is to sign the warrants.
You gotta sign this.
$6,300, that's at meters for Stiles.
I think that one, yes.
$19.28, what was that legal bill for? $1,928.
Is that Styles also, or is that Badger?
Does it say on
The legal bill?
that?
Oh, the legal bill, that's for,
Jones.
so the last time that you, well, a couple of times back we met and I had that docket or the thing from Gay about East Street problem. And that was actually,
It was a brief. I think.
right, it was a brief, so he filed the brief. It wasn't an old business, I think I sent you email separately. It wasn't an old thing, it was current. So he filed the brief and now it's waiting on a decision.
Okay.
Well, so let's move forward then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, because all it says, they sent the brief in, the appeals court accepted the brief, but
Yeah.
that's not a decision.
Right, that's not, they'll look at it, but I read the brief and it was pretty good, and he had some points to back it up, but usually they don't overturn their decisions, and if you didn't request the meeting minutes, which he didn't and we did not, then there's no basis to file another complaint.
Who wrote the brief?
That was Gay and Gay.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure which one of them it was,
Oh,
but,
that's what we're talking about.
yeah.
This bill here, Massasoit Community College, $3,300.
So that is,
School education, but I don't
Yes.
see,
It'll all get
don't see a bill in there.
oh, she should have had it in there, it came.
What is it?
The bill from Massasoit.
Tricia did that.
I know.
I was just looking to see who's that for?
So rather than take individual courses which cost a lot of money, everybody opted to take the licensing class, which gives you 20 credits and covers us.
Oh.
So for the next 10 weeks, we'll all be appearing at a class for, well, not all of us, it's spread out. We have another person going down to the Cape for another class, a different class. But that way we cover, we're not going to I don't have to pot guys out, because this is a licensing year, so we need the credits.
Yep.
And it gets boring taking the same pump class, the same thing. You take the same classes repeatedly over and over, so the licensing class reviews almost everything. I don't know why I put myself through it, but
You just keep taking them until you get it right.
yeah,
What punishment?
yeah.
But there's no bill in there, so we don't
I
find
did
out.
have some emails and find it. I know that she did get it because it gave it to her.
Well, I know what that is. but she-
Well, you got agency invoice from Massasoit,
You do?
829, it's for each,
Yeah, there should be
1, 2,
4 of them.
yeah, there's 4 of them. That's those 4 invoices go to that.
Oh, I thought that was a chemical bill.
No, I think that's the
No, there are
first page is the chemical bill.
Oh,
For the sodium chloride special impurity,
okay.
regular impurities.
Got it, all right.
And then that, and yep,
Well, that's not cheap.
No, but if we took the classes individually, you can pay anywhere from $200 to $500 a person for a class. And you've got to get to the 20 credits.
and that gives you enough credits for your certification.
Yep, that covers everybody with everything.
You have to do it, it's only,
No, yeah.
doing the same thing right now, my Title V stuff's all up in June.
Right,
Crap,
so now
go
you gotta
through
run
it.
around and find
And yeah, that's not a bad price.
Yeah. All right.
No abatements? Good.
How much water we pumping on you?
Let me look, I do have that actually. We're way down, it's,
Where we're supposed to be.
where we were supposed to be, yes. We're daily, so,
Good.
No refunds?
No.
on the second, I think we pumped 478,000 gallons for the day.
478.
Yep.
Nice, huh?
Yeah,
Well, next thing on the agenda is the build-out analysis. You, Pat, you might as well come up here if we're gonna discuss the build-out.
So we discussed this at the last meeting. There was some suggestions on some changes which we have made. One of which so that's the DCR projections. And we got the 2010 DCR letter and put their actual numbers that they projected for service population and employment projections. And the top line is their demand projections intended for your future permit, whenever it comes around for approval. Could be any day, but we've been waiting for quite some time to look at.
Don't say that, just be quiet.
You're good? You're good right now.
Yeah.
So we made that change. We added the DCR projections to the population table for figure 1.
So we're still above them right now, but it's a little closer than the census.
Yep. And we added figure 2 to include the demands. Again, that has the DCR numbers, your current demand, and then the projected build out. It's shown at 2030, but build out could be anywhere in the future, obviously, depending on how development goes. But it was just added to show the relationship between the other projections. There's one change in table 5, well, one change that precipitated change in the numbers. The potential additional services under residential went up because of how we calculated the additional lots. So, I don't know if you have the previously we had 561 potential lots. And something happened with the spreadsheet or something, how we applied the zoning. It's actually 1,529. So that ended up increasing the build-out demand, average day demand, to just over 1 million, and it was about 900,000.
Okay. Question. Figure 2, if our current population is above the DCR population number, how come we're so much lower than the DCR demand projection on the current demand? You're showing on figure number 2, you're showing a current demand for like 2018.
Yeah, it's about 685,000 in 2017, 18.
showing if our actual population is higher than the DCR population, just why is our demand so much lower? You've got us, what's that, almost 20%, 17, 18%
What is
below
the DCR population?
conservation recreation projections.
Oh,
Their state.
So in 2010, as the permits started to renew, DCR is in charge of forecasting everyone's future demands, despite whatever you say is your future demand.
Yeah.
So they did the forecast, they sent a letter to the Watch Department indicating how they did their population, how they projected business populations, and they applied 65 gallons per capita and 10% water council water. To those, they came up with the numbers shown in table 3.
So what I'm saying is their projection is actually higher than what our...
Well, but it looks, if you look at figure number 1, we have more population than DCR's number is carrying through in this time frame. So we have more people, but we've got significantly lower demand, according to figure 2.
The numbers came together.
Just curious, that just doesn't, it seems like if anything, that should be above, because they're only using 65 with 10% unaccounted. I don't think we're doing that well.
You're under 65.
Yeah.
But the unaccounted for?
Yeah.
Not including
No,
the big leap, but prior to that?
Prior to that, we were hanging right around 9.5%. So that should drop because we've been carrying something for quite a few years, and now that'll be
9.5% unaccounted for?
yeah.
All right, so we would be then potentially a little bit below, but that seems like a
That's
little
like a
low.
big number below.
I mean, that's 100,000 gallons a day out of,
But that number is what we use. That's the other weird thing.
yeah, no, and if we're right in that location, that's, 'cause again, our population, it should be higher, and it just doesn't seem like it should be that low. But
I have to go back and check the DCR numbers versus your current volume. I know the current's right. You gave us that number at
7.6 something.
Well, we were using 2017, which I think
All
was
right.
685.
So was the point of your
Yeah,
comment
it-
that DCR is not going to, wouldn't be the limiting factor?
Well, no, I was just wondering where, again, it just
Well,
jumped
it
out
just was-
because we're higher than DCR in population, so I think that if anything would be a little
We
higher
should be
than
able to lower
DCR.
usage, right?
Yeah, but maybe if we are below on the per capita and we're a little below on the
The per capita,
unaccounted for, that might be enough to do it. I didn't think,
yeah, we've been under on the per capita all along.
so you're comfortable saying that DCR demand projection then should be good for us to follow out through
Well,
that
but
time frame or?
development, right now, your permits for 1.53.
Yeah.
And the way I see them going forward is they're going to want to reduce you to 0.87. And I don't know if that conversation's
From what, we're $1 million higher now, they're about 800,000?
that's
Based on the population?
based on their table of population, business development.
Is that happening everywhere?
Yes.
Or is it because of the basin we're in?
No, it's strictly based on their population projections and business. All of the Cape water supplies got cut. Basically, if you're not using it and they don't forecast you to use it, then they're going to take it away out of the permits unless you can document through new development that's actually approved by planning, because you have a couple of developments that are in the process, but if they don't have planning board approval, DCR
Won't come.
won't count. We've had that argument a couple times.
So anything that they've approved, we better get them listed, that they they've been approved so we can get that number up. We gotta make sure that number stays up as high as we can get it. It's tougher to get it raised later.
Yeah, you must have filed a renewal, maybe? I don't know what was filed.
They haven't asked for anything. They just keep sending out the continuations.
So they're not using the 65 gallons per person?
DCR?
Yeah.
They forecast it two ways. They use the 6510, which is the
Yeah.
standard you're supposed to meet. And they also forecast based on your
What you're using?
actual. So theoretically, you can take the higher of the two. The 0.87 is the higher of the two. The 6510, which is the highest of the two.
So that even actually comes up higher than you're showing on the demand projections on this. Right? You're showing the DCR demand based on 65 gallons per capita.
Correct.
So actually, based on theirs, would their parcel, and we call it the one that comes up here to get to the 0.87 would actually have us up here, or are you just doing, this one just doesn't include the 4% buffer in figure 2? Is that what it looks? Because figure 2 looks like it's at 0.83.
It doesn't include the buffer.
So that's, I was thinking the 0.87 was a different line, but it's really not. That's just the buffer.
So they give you a little more.
Okay.
So that argument will happen whenever they reopen
Right.
your permit.
So the build-out, if I think I read it, it says we have enough water to meet the demands of the build-out
If capacity stays,
as it is. But yeah, wells degrade. And the other problem is the fact that our Norman Ave well it's at 0.228 milligrams per liter for manganese. So they've had us on quarterly testing now. We're just under the 0.3. The iron is fine, it's well under the 0.30. So,
if you get to 3, then
yeah, they're gonna force something. That's why in your papers I gave you a little thing on manganese, because if they do change it, then there'll be some blurbs hitting the paper at some point on it. So that's one thing. The other thing is all of our water is in this section of town, except for Manley Street. So if we have a crisis day where everything has to turn on, then you're going from 500 gallons a minute to 1,000 gallons a minute to anywhere up to 1,700 gallons a minute shooting down 2 pipes. And no matter how many chemicals I put in there to sequester, you can't stop the water quality complaints that are going to come through. As it is now, if I take if I am running one of these stations and I have to turn on the other one with it, I get water complaints for the next 2 weeks. They also work against each other, so if you run all 3, then they're all working against each other with head, and you're fighting.
Yeah, but Father, your pumping capacity drops off.
Right.
It goes from 500 gallons a minute. When you turn on another well, it'll go down to like 480, and then you turn on the third well, it'll go down to like 460.
Yeah.
So, and that affects each one of the wells, so you're losing 20 gallons or 40 gallons a minute on each well. So that's why I always used to not run. I used to run 1 or 2 of them at a time, never all 3 of them, because it was almost like eliminating one well. 50% of that well,
yeah.
or one of the wells, just because of the raised head.
hydraulics.
Yeah. So I used to rotate them. I used to keep one well running here in the Manley Street with it, and then a different well here with Manley Street.
Yeah, we try to get away from this.
Try to do it that way.
But if you need the pump, you need the pump.
And it wasn't the water in the ground. It was the delivery, the head pressure that you're creating.
Yeah, I've looked at Norman Ave too. The manganese, it's stayed pretty consistent at that 0.2 something range. It's not gone up or down. It's just stayed consistently at that. So it's not, doesn't look as if it's rising.
Where, Manley Street?
No, we're at Norman Ave.
Norman Ave. That's always had iron and manganese, and we've always been leery of we're going to have to build an iron removal plant over there someday.
Well, at that level,
Yeah,
pretty
that's,
long before.
well, the water level isn't changing, the regulations changing. you
I
recommend?
tried to look, but they're not saying anything on how they're moving or it's falling off of the grid and they're working behind the scenes and they just suddenly got that keyword there, promulgate or...
That's why
Yeah,
I
that's it, it's some funky word. And suddenly you've got a new rule.
Yep.
They're looking at it, still on the commissioner's list.
Yeah.
The EPA's looking at it. EPA's looking more closer at the health implications,
Right.
which will drive them creating an MCL. But that doesn't mean Massachusetts may not do their own thing, which they have already. There's at least one system that was under 0.3, and DEP forced them to treat. But 0.3 is a health advisory for manganese. And theoretically, until you hit that, DEP doesn't have the authority. And even 0.3 is not an MCL. It's
Right.
it's just a health advisory. Once you hit that, then you have to do public notice. And then they'll want to see the plan for what's going to happen. So we're trying to combine that into the source report, which I apologize.
For our new source, that's why I was interested in getting Norman Avenue well developed that we have over there, just because that new well would need an iron removal plant. We could tie the old well into it and treat them both at the same place, and it would, rather than build another well at another location and then have to turn around maybe in a couple of years and have to build an iron removal plant at Norman Avenue, and then we've got two plants that we've got mortgages on, and all the expenses
more
around
cost
it.
effective.
Hmm?
The bigger they are, the more cost effective, and then you only have one facility
Right.
for O&M in the future.
Yeah, we don't want to be maintaining two of those.
And we're trying to tie that together in a new source report, and I apologize, I don't have that for you tonight, as I promised. We had to do some more work on the whole swimming component of that, because I don't think we described it well enough. Because you're facing some other problems with water management, because two of the basins where all your wells are in, 24-11 and 24-26, are stressed groundwater conditions by. So DEP is going to want minimization.
Not new well.
Why did they say they're stressed? Why did they say that?
Because the net August groundwater levels are less than 25%, based on all pumping that's already permitted. They do a safe yield, and then they look at all the pumping from all approved, and it's not only you, it's other people in the basins, privates, cranberry bogs, whoever it might be.
We don't, there's hardly anybody else permitted in this area. We bought almost all the land that's in the sand and gravel. There's a glacial deposit of sand and gravel right here, and in 1976 I went out and bought almost everything that was left to be developed. So we own it. And I don't know of anything. The only one that may have a permit for some water usage is the guy on Matfield Street. Matfield. And he's doing more maple syrup, I think, than water.
Yeah, but he is permitted for spring water.
Right, but his is under 100,000 gallons a day. It's way low. So,
Like you said, they don't really care who's taking it, it's just how much is taking it based on what they use.
I don't think there's anybody else permitted in that.
They're
Basically,
showing Brockton, Hubbard Street well.
Yeah.
that's shut down, wasn't it?
It's still a permitted source. Years ago, I did some work with Brockton for water.
I thought they closed that down.
I didn't think they had
But
any wells in service, but it's still listed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that one's contaminated from a car company. It was a car dealership that got chemicals in that. They closed it down.
There's another one, this is in 011 Basin, Churchill Linen Service. It has a well and it has a permit, which means it's over 100,000 gallons
Yeah.
a day. And then
was there. I didn't know they had a well up there.
It's all sand and gravel up there too.
Is it?
24, 26, Chadwick's of Boston.
Well, all that water's coming from that direction.
That's a groundwater discharge to the treatment plant.
When Chad was in?
Groundwater discharge.
That's a discharge. So they
Is
track.
that for their septic?
Yeah.
For out the
And that
back?
affects it?
Well, in their calculations that they do on these basin summaries,
Are they using it for a test well?
no, they count the water going in from
Yeah, no.
wastewater.
So that helps
recharge.
us, I mean, on the street
That
area.
it's, if it's an on-site, it helps you. They give them credit for 85% of the water going back in the ground, septic, 50% of the loss.
Yeah.
So they do the pluses and minuses, see what's left as far as the safe yield. And if it's less than 25%, then they want everyone to minimize withdrawals. Now, all of your sources in both those basins. So minimization starts with, well, can you withdraw from a basin out another basin that's not?
So we don't get any credit being a town that's all septic systems? What are we charging?
You do on mitigation, which is another piece. So, under the new water management, they've established baseline. And baseline is your average use from 2003 to 2005 or 2005, whichever is higher. So your baseline is 0.73. So if you get permitted for 0.87, you have to do mitigation for the volume between 0.73 and 0.87. 100 and some thousand gallons a day. You have to mitigate that, which means stormwater recharge. You do get credit for the septic recharge at 85%.
On residential, even small septics?
All of it.
All.
Yeah, so if you're all septic in town,
All.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Basically, 99%.
so then you would be mitigating 15% of that difference between 0.87 and 0.73. And you can have direct mitigation, which is like stormwater recharge. If the town does stormwater systems that recharge, you can get credit for that. You can get credit for the land you own that you purchased. You get so much an acre mitigation credit for lands in the watershed.
We bought everything from here to Brockton. We own everything right to Brockton.
Typically, we go out to the land first because it doesn't involve you doing anything different other than certifying the land is yours and where it's at versus doing new projects. You can get credit for doing I&I work, for doing like sewers, so there's no I&I work. There's a list of items, but typically we go out to the land because most of the water suppliers own much more land than they need for the wells. So taking credit for that is the easiest way. So that's coming.
Septic is a gimme because we have that.
Yes.
So that recharge. I think we do have a bylaw in town for stormwater recharge.
I think that's something new that they've been working on. Stormwater, the new Stormwater Management Act.
Yeah, you can get credit if there's a bylaw for fertilizers as well. If they limit the use of fertilizers, it has to have specific language, but you can get some credits for that. Also.
Didn't we have one of those when I was here? That we put something like that in.
There's something to do, well, they were chasing after the white stuff that kept appearing everywhere. I'm not sure if they ever did anything or not. I think they did do something.
I think something
Yeah,
they
they-
I
addressed.
think there is. I think there's something in there about fertilizer.
Sludge.
Yeah, that's going to be different, I think, than what he's
Yeah,
talking
I
about.
think that was a sludge by
Townwide use, not just talking about the farmers spreading stuff on the field.
You know,
Talking about
townwide
whole
residential
Yeah, we don't have anything like that.
limitations on
Oh, even residential.
No, because it'd be everybody.
Yeah.
And the thing you're thinking of it is, it's the stuff
It
that
was
did
a
about the
sludge.
sludge that was coming out of Carney's place.
So we're trying to wrap all that into this other report for source. Now they're all tied together, where you want to go, where you're at, if you have to minimize from where you're contrary to the idea we were going in with, develop a new well close to the existing one so that when treatment comes along, you can do a combined plant without building 5 miles of pipeline to get it there. So it's a combination of all those. What basins they'll let you pump more out of, what basins they won't.
Yeah, because your old maps, basically, it looked like we were going to be kind of out of luck where we've been pumping, or at least up for a good fight from where we've been pumping.
Well, you're in the good aquifers already, and the good aquifers are the ones that are stressed already. Just that one.
You know, we drilled holes all over town, and there isn't much left. If we found good land, we bought it. If there was land with gravel and sand and it had water on it,
Very localized, where the bands of, I think it's probably on that. The bands in sand and gravel aren't real expansive.
Not consistent.
The
the only one I know of that we never bought was the one that is up behind Scotland Street. There's a vein of gravel up in there. It's at the end of
Scotland?
Far Street. At the end of there, what's it, Clinton Road?
The sand and gravel in there?
Yeah, the best gravel.
Oh, it was right at the end of, once you go over the bridge right there, there's some gravel.
Yeah,
Big an area.
there's a knoll there, and it's deep. It's got a lot of water, and DEP immediately said we couldn't touch it because
Too close
the
to the
dump was right there.
Oh, the dump.
And there's too many. It was too close, and we had a dump back in the '60s, and they said you can't never use it. So we never bought it. We could have bought it. It was in the middle of the woods. We could have taken it and bought it, but it was no sense in buying it because they said we could never use it.
all of your zone 2 run to the north, I think. I haven't seen the zone 2
Pretty
map.
much, yeah.
So we'll try to tie that all together in the next report and see where it leads. And I will check on the difference, how the reversal of
Well, it's
population.
it's not that it's a huge, it's just that, just looked odd. Like, kind of.
Intuitively, it doesn't make sense, right? Good?
Yeah. You got any other questions for them? Or?
No. When you,
Back to the old Bridgewater place. So you said they got approved by ZBA,
Yeah.
so now they go
The
back.
hearing's been closed and they're writing the
Decision.
yeah, it's the decision, yeah.
So now they go back to the planning board.
I know they still have to go to conservation.
I didn't know if you
They may still have to
automatically-
get approval from the state.
What happens with that approval? Do they mention water at all? Or?
Yeah, but it's not a complete set of plans when you approve the thing. It's just the way it works with a 40B. It's pretty complete, don't get me wrong, but you don't hammer everything out 100%, unfortunately.
But they still have to go back to planning.
I'm not sure if they have to go to planning board now. I think the state's the final thing now.
I know they're exempt from all planning
You're
requirements.
exempt
and
from all the
40B.
local zoning bylaws.
Right.
Only local zoning, you go to,
Shortage of water isn't a bylaw.
it goes to
well,
state.
they still have to get it.
All your local zoning bylaws go out the window. You go by, even Concom, all your Concom local requirements goes to state. And like any zoning, like if we have 30,000 square foot residential lots, they go to state, which is like 7,000.
Yeah, the density goes away.
Yeah. So it's,
The reason I asked is typically towns in the planning board process would have a sign off for you in conservation, so
yeah.
you have that authority.
It's in the decision. They've got to meet all the requirements, and one of them in there is, before they get a permit, they've got to satisfy the water. So
So eventually.
So is
they'll
this
come back
before the
to
Board
us.
of Appeals or the?
Yeah.
or the
Board of Appeals.
Board of Appeals.
Board of Appeals does the 40Bs in this town. And so I don't know how it works. I always wanted this study done ahead of time because supposedly if we have to, if we can show that it's adversely affecting our existing water mains and we have to have them upgrade something, we can get money out of them to do it or bargain with them to do it. I don't know how we
Well, they have to
do
do-
that now.
But I think, again, what they said when they were in here, though, I think they were having other issues. And they wanted to make sure before they spent this money that they weren't gonna get.
I think they could,
Run something.
they felt they could do it. They can do it with a trickle. They'll just fill tanks and then repump it, but for fire protection. But I don't know. It hasn't been totally ironed out. I mean, they'll come up with a way to skin the cat with what we've got. But
I know we've had battles other places with 40Bs where the water department has required system upgrades.
it doesn't happen.
And you didn't get them.
They didn't get it?
No.
No. It goes to whatever the board is at the state for 40Bs.
Yeah. Well, if you start,
They lost.
if the town makes it, hard on them, come up with too many requirements, because all the numbers are there. What their profit's going to be, what's the cost to do the project, the whole thing. If you start doing too many requirements and throws the numbers off, they can say the heck with the town and go right to the state. They bypass the town.
And that's,
Huh.
the trump card.
Yeah, they can totally bypass the town. So you got to try to get as much as you can within reason, to make a good project.
I can reach out.
And that includes water, so,
Yeah, water, wastewater, there's a,
And we should at least know how it's going to affect the system or what.
Well, that's the thing, if you can show that there is an adverse effect, you can show, and if they won't pay for upgrades, then fine, you have them limited to a certain amount of water they can take.
We
To
should
show
be able to
that,
argue
so they
somewhere.
can't pull that off. They can't, it doesn't cost them anything, so you can put that limitation.
Right.
But you can't make them put in a 12-inch water main for it, 3/4 of a mile to move something in, unless they decide they want to play along ice. But if you can show that it's going to adversely affect the system, you can tell them.
So we're going to have major pressure drops.
Yeah, you can't be pulling that off there. You're going to be limited to this much water, and they've got to, then it costs them money to make their fire protection system work.
the fire department weigh in.
They can only adversely affect our system so much, I think, too.
No, I'd worry about that if somebody else, you want to try to get it so that they want the cost for their fire engineer to redo that system so that it can work with no more than 40 gallons a minute.
I think they've already done, they've done a flow
No.
test, right?
They did
a
it,
flow test.
but they did the flow test and the flow test they had, they can't run a fire protection.
They had some rough numbers, but they were going to come up with this other system.
They pulled 10 PSI, they dropped that system to. We say, no, you can't do that.
When they pull it down to 10, if they're filling a tank or something, nobody else got any water on the street till they get done.
But if they get that system, they could find that it's cheaper for them to improve the system to get water for us at a better rate than what they're gonna have to put in for fire
At
tanks
least
and
now,
everything else
at least-
to be able, yeah. I mean, that's what I think they're trying to figure out where they're
At
gonna
least it
go.
gets looked at, and we find out how it affects our system. We haven't been able to do that before, so.
I'll reach out to the engineer again and see if they're moving on there as far as doing the analysis. But.
When I said, the last time I could have
Well,
sworn
they're hiring, they're
wanted
supposed to
to
be
get
hiring you to do the analysis.
Right, I forwarded the scope and the budget through the engineer. I don't know
I
the
forget who's the engineer.
LLC something, old Bridgewater place LLC.
Jeez, I forget who the engineer
Herman,
Herman and
Oh, Herman, Walter Herman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last time I reached out before the last meeting, he said they were sitting on it based on, I think, that hearing.
Well, we want you to do it has to be the water department's engineering service.
Yeah,
Right, I think they understand that, based on the.
Walter, and like I said, I think it was more to do with, they wanted to see how that hearing, what was going on with that before they
Right.
shelled out that money, if they were gonna have to do something different anyway. And start relooking at the project, but if they've got that approval now, then you would think you'd be hearing from them.
Maybe the next step.
Yeah.
We want them, I know they're going to Concom next and get that lined out.
discuss the new source, right?
Yep.
Anybody got any other questions for him on the new
Just
source?
when do you think you'll have the new source bit done, the rest of the work, yeah? 2 weeks? Right?
March 18th, and then April 1st.
I'm gonna shoot for the next meeting, I just read it.
I'm not gonna be here.
Right, so I expected after the last meeting, so.
We'll put you down for 3/18.
March 18th.
You don't want to tell us you're going to have it on April Fool's Day and then have to call up and say April Fool's.
So I wrote it. No big deal, so. Okay, that's not right. Am I on the agenda again?
I don't think so.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't think that's it.
Updated budget for well 5? Can you just pass that along?
Well, they're not gonna vote on that anyways, but I think they already have, you can hand to them.
That was in,
Yeah, I think
Oh,
you
you
can
printed
find, yeah. That one's pretty much approved, that doesn't require a vote, so it can be discussed.
So at the last meeting, you suggested to go ahead and replace the starters for wells 4 and 5 in the back room with
Gotcha.
DOTs.
yeah.
So the bottom line is we bumped up the estimate 50,000. So that's the drives, the installation, wiring from the drives back to what we're tied to in the room for the distribution panel. And then we added in SCADA, wiring from the drives back to the MPU in that room to control the drives and have that control function.
That's all on the phase 2. Right, phase 1 didn't change.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Well, I went to print stuff and it took time, now I finally changed the page.
well, didn't you just say replace the feeds in the instrumentation?
In this room.
Oh, just in here, but not from here up?
Right.
Okay. Price didn't go down, oh well.
I don't want to be the low bidder, so I strive to 320. Get it done. That should be conservative, and there is contingency in it as well, so. For me,
This is another, I'm good.
Good.
So,
Thanks
thanks
for
for
coming
coming
down,
down.
Matt.
my pleasure. See you again in a couple of weeks.
March 18th, looking forward to it.
Get some more paper.
And the magic answer for how we can just take more water out of the ground and get permitted for it, and it's almost what it takes.
I'll work on that. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, good seeing you.
Thanks for coming in. Yep.
Okay, we got budget 2020 and budget supplement 2019. Public, so we're about to discuss we got to go into the finance committee and so it's selectmen
Yeah, so the
Wednesday.
BOS is 7:15 on Wednesday.
Yeah, they
Change
changed.
on
Change it at 7:45.
instead of 5. Yep. So the budget 2020, the town is looking to hire a part-time GIS person to begin, and they're going to transition this person to be Ed Saro's replacement. So they've asked us to pay for 30% of that.
Is it a full-time salary?
So eventually they'll ramp this person up to be full-time as Ed transitions out. I think it's got to go over a year or two to transition Ed out and bring whomever up to speed. So out of us, they're asking us to change our GIS line from what FinCom reduced it down to 7,000 to bring it up to 15,000 to cover this our part of this person.
We were at 10, right?
We were at 10,
And the
yes.
finance committee lowered it to what, 7?
They lowered it to 7.
Okay. So the selectmen are recommending we bring it up to 15. I think it's money well spent.
I think
As long as we get that many hours out of the person that's gonna be doing the work. I brought that up, you know, we don't wanna be paying for a third of the person and only getting 25% of the time that we keep our records up. So if we get a third of their hourly time,
I still think we can work it, and we're budgeted for a part-time person, and that we could work that. If you hire the right person, you can get a GIS skill set there that if we're not kept up, we can at least be keeping up. Plus, a lot of the Bentley software requires manipulation of the GIS file to get it into the Bentley and utilize it. And I'm trying to work us towards using it to go out in our gate box so we can start putting all our pictures. Well, we use GIS a lot. Most everybody else they'll go through little spurts for updates, but they're sedimentary with us. But we're always updating because anytime that we dig down and we find something, we locate it. So the next time we dig, we're not digging blindly again because everything we work with it's in the ground, it's out of sight. So if we don't have a good dimension to it, it really hurts us in time-wise to get to it and find it.
That's why I want to make sure we don't get shortchanged by, if we're funding this person, that now is going to, I mean, plus, if he's transitioning into Ed Sarro didn't just do GIS stuff.
Ed Sauer doesn't do any GIS stuff.
He does other stuff. So
Yeah,
we
he's
don't-
done
we don't-
no key stuff.
So what do we get, you know, if we take that line and spend it on Ed Sarro's replacement, we still need to spend all the GIS money we spent it before.
I think what they're talking about is they want to get a GIS person that is capable of just doing what Ed Sauer was doing. Ed Sauer's doing it, he's retired,
Yeah.
and he's just doing it to keep the thing afloat, and
He
he wants to...
outsources a lot of his work. So he uses outside vendors to do most
Oh,
everything.
he did?
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's an intelligent person. He does know the
He wasn't
system.
doing it all himself, though.
But it's basically also, the desktop stuff is all done by, is it Tech Hub, this something? Yeah. Most of it's all outsourced, and when they hit the fiber cable up there, that was all outsourced and done. It was just a matter of him contacting the correct people.
What I see happening right now, the conservation person is getting paid now to do some GIS work, and he's actually outsourcing it to get somebody else. So he's looking at getting somebody else in there. The assessors, we're paying their person to head up GIS, and he's getting a raise in his pay, but he's outsourcing it. He doesn't know anything about GIS. He isn't doing any mapping. He's outsourcing it to somebody else. And so we've got all these people who are getting pay raises for hiring other people to do the GIS. Why don't we just get one person in town and head up the whole thing who knows something about GIS, and instead of the assessors paying their man more money and the conservation paying their person more money, just have one person in the town hall, just do it. Get somebody who's got a degree in GIS, and you know, when we need work done, we go to them and we get it done.
It's not a bad idea as long as it doesn't cost us, and if we can do it with a part-time, then, you know, we're okay. But shouldn't there, if all this is what's going on, shouldn't there be a meeting of all these different departments sitting at one time at a table in town hall saying, okay, this is what it's going to be, this is what the purpose, because it just sounds like all they're thinking about is, hey, let's put somebody in town hall that we can say is going to do this, and we'll get people to pay them, but we don't know what we're paying for.
So we're pumping our line item up 30%, you said?
Yeah, so we're gonna
Who else is
run.
pumping theirs up 30%?
So, well, the town is basically. I don't know where the money's coming from, so I'm not sure who's.
So who else is contributing another?
So currently, the only
7%.
people that pay for licenses are the DPW and the Board of Health. And when I've tried to work with them to upgrade their licenses, it kind of falls they don't really use it. Concom's using it now because he has the MS4 permit, and that's due. And the drainage.
What about all the
maps
signs? When I was here,
we just worked with Sean to get his iPad back up and working, so he's out and working with that again.
yeah, because we had all the signs on there one time, and that was a regulation by the state that they had to have their reflectability or some.
I mean, the
feature
town
on the
does
sign.
need to take a hold of it because
As a matter of fact, they hired an engineer to update it all.
the town center is still not upgraded. There are things that are falling behind because I tried to work with everybody, but you just hit roadblocks. So I'm not going to fight with anybody. I'm just going to move around.
See, that's one of the problems. If we go dig in the center of town, the road is where it used to be.
So that never got updated yet?
It's never been updated.
No, and Manley Street hasn't
Manley
either.
Street too, yeah.
So we got, and that's something that an engineer or a person that's really good in GIS should be getting an engineer to make sure that those maps are real accurate. And when they go on there, that first layer, that they're done right. Now, I know that Kristen, who used to work with us, she used to take the deeds, and she would put the map, put the plot on there, and then she would make a note on the GIS
Yeah, you do it in the
of where she got the information from, what was she using.
Yeah.
She would, and then it would be filed in Plymouth County Deeds Office, and this is where it came from, and what date, and who made the changes and everything. Where right now there's changes being made to the lines on the map, so that if something is questioned someday later, they can look, when they look back at how that change got made, there's no record of who changed it, when it got changed, what they used for a document to make the change. And the way it had always been is the way Kristen was doing it.
Yeah.
And
make it, and then you change the picture. You don't just change the picture.
Right, exactly. So, but we got the assessors doing one thing, and now the conservation is using it, and they're doing another thing. And it just seems like there's too many people running the map, and everybody's getting a pay raise. If they took that money, pulled it all together, and put one person who's got a degree in GIS, our money would be much better spent.
So we should probably run this by the finance committee.
Well, I'm making you aware of it now, so and it's on the agenda for this budget so that you can approve it, but it requires an $8,000 increase in the thing, so at some point, yes, the Board of Selectmen and FinCom will both see that line.
Okay.
So, but we're being asked to increase it and not use it ourselves. Basically,
That's
increase
correct.
it to give to
So
town hall.
currently we have fees, so licensing fees and update fees tied to that.
So we should have a separate line item for those things. And anything else that you may need for the GIS. If you have an instrument or something like that you can't use their money, that they're gonna be paying a salary out of, you're gonna need money.
The town's going to have to start forking up the equipment that will be needed, and there are modules that we don't have that would have to be added on. Plus, any courses that this guy takes run anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 a class for a day. It gets real expensive fast.
Yeah, so, I mean, but that's the way it is with all well-educated people.
Right.
And, that's what you run into. I mean, you're not going to hire somebody for $20,000 a year and run your GIS system.
So right now, though, what do we have to do? This is
Just
something that's
increase the line by $8,000.
and then we can go back in and argue or ask what's it going to be, whether exactly they're going to use it for, how much of that we have to keep because of things like you said about the licenses.
I think it's a good idea that maybe we should just ask the selectmen if we could have a meeting, not at a public meeting, but just a meeting with the other departments who are going to be using this thing.
It should have been a meeting in
and
advance
David
to explain what they were
David
trying to
Gagne is behind it so we can find out exactly what they're thinking.
It's one GIS system for the town, so it's,
Correct.
instead of piecemealing, so should be one,
Right.
Yeah, but then,
should be some
but with different parts, like, we do very well
Right.
with what we do with it. We don't want it to be something that hurts us.
Right.
That was my main thing is, yeah, we get this to this other person, and now we lag because they have so much to do to bring up the assessors to speed, to bring up, DPW,
Right.
whatever. So we didn't know, we could backslide while they come forward.
Well,
That would be,
we should bring that up to
well,
them.
that's why we should, maybe we could ask for a meeting.
You're still only looking at the map part of it. There's a whole data portion.
Yeah.
The map is really the surface. The data is what drives,
Right.
is the time-consuming thing behind it.
I have a question on us. We in that GIS with our gate valves on, it has all the data for the gate valves in it?
Yes, it does.
It's on our GPS,
She's
right?
actually been updating it from our gate turning software too.
All the hydrants are,
It's all tied into our GIS.
It's all tied into our.
all the hydrants are on there, like if you
Hydrants
tap on a
and
hydrant, it'll tell you what year it was put in, how many.
But even the gate valve, how many turns and all that?
That's in the gate turning. She asked if that should be in there, and I wasn't sure it should be because that falls out in our gate turning software.
Oh, okay. It's not that. That's what I meant. The gate turning software.
Right.
All that information is not in the GIS.
The gate turning, no. What she did though was out of the report that I generated, she took the gate turning software, whatever information we didn't have, she then added or corrected. Because the
So you
gate
click on a
can be in
gate, you can see, all the information, size, how many
They-
turns, left hand, right hand.
it. Yep.
The gate operating company, the software company,
Yeah.
they had a program, but it was really expensive, 3,000, 8,000, something, when,
The program's actually free.
what?
It's the gate turning software, the program's free.
Yeah, but the big one that they had, that we could put our whole GIS map on it, and then it would make like a work program where you could go out and it would have all the information, but it was very expensive and
We don't
just,
need it.
it didn't need it, we just, the free one was doing everything that we needed, the only thing that wasn't all in one bundle. Well, maybe we should try to set up a meeting to discuss this
Yeah.
person, this full-time
Yeah,
person.
just
part-time
just
person.
for an information meeting on exactly how this is all supposed to work. That's all.
With everybody.
So behind every gate in there is this data table.
Yeah.
And it's whatever you want to put into the table, then it's part of that thing. And it's all Excel searchable. Data is where the actual,
That should be for the hydrants too.
it is for the hydrants, for everything that's in there. There's a database table behind everything.
Yeah.
Every piece of pipe, everything.
And look, every curb box, if you go on a curb box, it'll tell you what year and everything else.
It's not, the data is what, the map is the basic part of it. The data is what everything else is. I mean, the town can use it, it's just, the two different jobs, the IT job and GIS are two distinctly different things.
We put hundreds and hundreds of hours into putting all that data in there.
She's still updating the data. It's an ongoing thing. If you find a piece
Well,
of
every time you replace a hydrant, you replace a
Right.
lot of hydrants. Every one of those are gotta be changed now.
Right. So currently all they're asking for is an $8,000 increase.
Okay. Well, they're asking us, so we shouldn't have to explain it.
No, but we should be able to ask who else is being asked how much they're gonna put in,
Right.
and just a general idea of what exactly they're talking about doing. I mean, I'm not suggesting we don't go ahead, but, we really should have better information, because now we just had that cut from 10 to 7, so now we're putting a larger number in,
Right.
and we're not gonna get to touch the money.
Right.
And it might cost us on things like your licenses that come out, that are in that line.
It is. I think we currently pay for $900 just for
Well, you're gonna have to have a
license,
separate, line item to cover those things for licenses and any hardware things that you need to make the GIS system go. you know, you're gonna have to have a separate line item.
We'll let the town pay for that because the locating devices is probably around $30,000.
Well, we'll have to, the problem is we'll have to
We're gonna-
tell the town ahead of time they're gonna need to pay for that.
Right. Nobody's
Otherwise,
asked
it's
us-
gonna come right back to us.
But it basically was just thrown out at the last second. Hey, by the way,
Yeah.
I only heard about it last week.
Well, the other thing, if we buy something like that, somebody's gonna know how to use it.
Right.
Somebody's gonna have to go to school and learn how to use it. We don't wanna buy something that nobody knows how to use. Especially if it costs $30,000.
There's a lot of discussion for $8,000.
I know. All right, next. I'm ready for bed.
Been a long day.
Been a long couple days.
Alright, so, check that out. That's in my notes, I might have said bad things. I think I've estimated out, I looked at what we spent to date and the warrants that you just signed. And I went back to 2017 and I took every expense on every line that was overrun and added up everything in 2017, what we used on those lines up to the end of the year, to June 31st. I believe that we'll need $115,000 to carry us through the rest of the year. I also included 4 valves I need for Manley Street in
This
that
is the
line.
2019
That's
supplement.
the
that you're talking about.
2019 supplement.
And that's lower than you told us last time.
115. So it is down.
Yeah.
Because when I was forecasting then, we were still running above normal production, so we've gotten control of that.
So it only costs us $115,000 to triple our water pumping when we didn't need to. So we could
Yeah, it was only a partial year.
partially. I mean,
Yeah.
so it was an extra 600,000 gallons a day.
I mean, there's no guarantee that it's actually going to cost us that. If we don't have things that break, that just covers whatever I saw used in that 2017 year. I had nothing else to go by to forecast how much we'd run.
A lot of it's due to the leak, correct?
Yeah. Well, 2017 was prior to. That's why I went back.
But I'm just
Beyond
saying that
20.
this supplemental
It is basically yes for equipment.
is
and-
basically what we
and
overran
chemicals.
because of the leak, correct?
Right, correct.
No, I mean, you're comfortable, that's enough.
I'm comfortable I can make it.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you need us to vote on you submitting that number for?
So that's going
This
to.
is going to the special, right?
Yeah, so that's for the special. So I just wanted you to know.
So that's coming up at this meeting that we're gonna be going to, they're gonna be.
So at the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom meeting, they may ask about the article or the supplement. So both articles, they may ask about them.
Okay, and the article, so the $500,000.
They're gonna wanna know where that money's coming
We're
from.
gonna have to borrow that money.
We got a meeting.
There's no way we're gonna be able to come up with that.
7.
And that should be paid for by the ratepayers, because that's an old well. It shouldn't be dumped on to any class of any other person.
It should go to everybody.
Everybody. That's everybody's
Commercial,
expense.
industrial, resident, yeah.
That's an everybody expense. So
And we'll
we'll bond it and we'll pay the loan on it every year. And whatever the principal and interest is, that's what the rate will have to go up, spread evenly over everybody.
Alright, so I got a note to myself to ask Scott, because it'll definitely come up since the last time that we borrowed. It didn't go out the length of time we thought it was, so I'll ask him how long we'll be able to borrow for. It should be 30 years, because it's 4 wells that's gonna last, hopefully perpetual. And I'll ask him how much it's gonna hit our line for.
Okay. Yeah, you give a number, $500,000. Find out how many years we can get, like you said. And then we'll just find out what the principal and interest payment will be over that number of years. And then we'll divide that out by the number of gallons that we sell. That's how much the cost of water will have to go up.
Yeah.
And spread evenly.
There's really no other place we have to get that money, other than, because we're not there. I mean, we don't have that kind of money even to take in surplus. If we could even take some of that, we want to use for other
No, because
maintenance anyway.
you got the new source, and we've got
Yeah.
the money coming in. When you borrow that money, then we're using the money from the new tie-ins to pay for the new source. That's the new customers paying for that. And we've already got the wells, the painting of the tanks and the mortgage on the Walnut Street tank being paid for by the sprinkler companies. They're getting all the benefits of all those features of those tanks. Well, they're paying for 2/3 of the big tank. They're paying for the mortgage on the Walnut Street tank. The whole thing is that's benefiting all the industrial park, but not really the rest of the town.
DEP compliance.
All right,
So
so,
that's gonna be our 2 articles of the special.
yes,
For those-
yeah, that's it. That's all we have on that one.
Okay. Mass DEP compliance?
So, we're not flow pasting any of the stations. That's a requirement.
We're not what?
Flow paste. Stations 1, 2, and 4. I didn't,
We used to be.
we're not. Right. And if we are, I'm not sure how we were, but,
We always were.
so I've asked.
Well, it was a requirement, we had to be.
Right. Well, somewhere along the way, somebody removed it, or I have no way to do it currently.
Explain that.
So flow pacing, if the flow speeds up, all the chem pumps will ramp up with it. If it slows down, right. If we drop a pump, they're going to see that and they'll drop their pace.
So-
to match
And
it.
they don't now?
They do not.
So
Well,
let's,
now they've been constant speed pumps though. Now you're gonna
They
be
are
you're gonna
constant
need
speed,
that.
but it's still the Mass DEP law.
yeah, what happens is if we got 2 wells running here, and then all of a sudden the well down back starts up, creates more head pressure. If these 2 wells start producing 20 gallons per minute less than they were just because that well turned on, it picks up the fact that the chemical pump will drop down by, say, 8%.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah, and so
But it
instead,
doesn't now, so we're over.
it always did.
We don't over pump, it just stays consistent. It's not pretty much
It
there.
averages out to where it's not
Right.
an issue.
And we're watching most of it. pH is our biggest concern anyway, so we're watching that and it's monitored through interlock alarms.
Technically, we're out of compliance because it's
Yes,
not.
so I've asked our instrumentation person to give me a cost estimate on getting that fixed or remedied. And I asked him if we could do it in-house, or whatever we could do in-house to try to save costs. He hasn't replied back. The dialer is also off, but that's part of station 1 for him to fix that. So eventually he'll be coming in to fix that and I'll put us in compliance with that.
Oh, the dialer in there? We never hooked that up.
Yeah.
We could have a well go out, and we could just wait till morning anyways, the tanks were so
We
big.
have to have it now.
Now it's a requirement, just because DEP or somebody says that we have to have it. But if you lose a pump during the night, it's not gonna make any difference. You got so much in storage, it's not gonna make any difference. By the time you get in the morning.
Demand is down so that we would make it.
But now though, going back to the other one, that's, if we're spending all this on the VFDs for the wells, it makes, really, we should have all those flow pastes, because you start actually utilizing that to move where the water's coming in and out of the system from.
Right.
You don't wanna be over, you save the money on the chemical anyway, regardless, in addition to safety.
Right.
So, yeah, so he's gonna give a price and we'll just add that into the,
Yeah, I'll
Budget
let you
for
know when the
21.
time comes and we'll see. Hopefully it comes in soon.
Okay.
we wanna have that for next year's budget, okay?
I hope so.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
and probably do it as an article. We'll do it as a separate
I don't know how
article.
much it is. but
Yeah.
Yeah, get
Can't be too
more
much.
if you have to.
right.
Okay, so that's Mass DEP
So
compliance.
OSHA
What about
compliance.
OSHA compliance?
So far out. But I'm gonna try to do things here or there because if they come in, like they went in our kitchen here, it's not a GFI in it. They went in our bathrooms, there's not a GFI in it. You start failing at every point. Then they
There's
just go,
GFIs in there.
if there is, I'm
I
not
think
sure.
the GFI, like for that kitchen,
Yeah.
is here in the hallway.
Might be a GFI breaker.
Yeah, no, there's a GFI,
Or the
it
GFI.
trips out in that hallway. The electrician put it in the hallway,
Yeah, that's
and it runs all the plugs in
Yeah,
there.
that's a pain in the neck, so it trips out.
Oh, no, I know, but that's the way they built the building.
There is, I don't know. Well, maybe it covers the bathrooms too, but it's the same. There are, like, it's just small things like that. There are small things like in the garage. They went through and found an electrical plate off. It's a violation.
How do you know what's in violation and what's not?
So I've been compiling data, there's reams of it on, like, Manley Street, all of our pits. There's no chain guards to prevent anybody from falling in. It's little things like that, but once they get going, then they go wild with you.
Chain guards and what?
So all of the pits that you step down into, where you're supposed to have chains to prevent anybody from falling in, should they?
Accidentally step there.
Right.
Yeah.
You might be able to do a voluntary inspection and see what's out of compliance.
They have it, but I want to try to catch us. It's some of the things I'll do, the small things I can do.
Catch the
pits,
obvious
right.
The
first.
pits, we always kept them dirt over them and hidden
No, inside of Manley Street.
inside.
Yes, if you went down into the Myox area, there's a set of stairs there that should have had a chain guard on it.
Oh, okay.
It's
I got you.
stupid little things like that. I mean, things that we know exist, but technically,
But you guys could do that.
right. There are things like that that we're going to do. I'm just saying that we're going to try to.
No, when you had said that, I thought that was more about like your work method stuff, or like if you got a pit open or something. You're talking about all soup to nuts.
Work ethic is, outside work is different. We try to bench our holes now.
Yeah.
And if not, then we do drag
We
that
have a
thing
box.
around
We
with
have a
us.
trench box, right?
Yeah, but it's not, it's open on two ends, so that's an open trench box, not a how we work box. So technically, it's a box, but it's a violation. But we drag it around, we try to bench our holes instead of using the box, get them wide enough and benched.
Yeah.
So that's all there is on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can try to get
Office managers
do what you
and
can and do
superintendents.
voluntary.
Right.
Goals and contract.
Alright, so I didn't print the contracts again because I hate wasting trees. The town hall has looked at our contracts, they've reviewed my math, they've assured us that nothing changed other than the math, and that the math was correct. So if you want, I can print them out for you to look at them again, but
It's the same ones you gave us.
yes, they haven't changed any since town hall approved them.
Okay.
And you sent that email out like 2 weeks ago or something, right?
Yeah, and
I remember seeing.
I think David responded all back to you that it was all set.
I saw that.
Alright, so then, these are the signing contracts. And we'll actually remove something permanently from.
So we have to set goals for this coming year?
Yeah, so I do have some goals, and I thought of some for Kerry too. I didn't want to get away with that.
We have goals, Karen.
Wayne has goals.
Who has goals for you?
Yeah.
But before we go to the goals upcoming,
Yeah.
that last contract is a
There should have been goals made last year when they instituted the things. They didn't, so I did come along with 3 goals for each of us that.
But for that, I just want to make sure what I remember. The numbers that went in
Yep.
included making all the goals.
Correct.
The full percentage as if the goals were made,
Correct.
even though there weren't any goals actually set up.
Right. I did run goals by you. I mean, if you don't like them, you can say so.
No, I don't mean
with
that. I mean, it's just so.
This year.
So if it gets questioned in the future,
Right.
because it's not a bonus, it's a permanent.
Right. There were
Increase.
goals that we were working on, like the badging system upgrade.
Yeah.
Finding and getting our production in control. And I forget what the other things were. I have to go back through the notes.
But it was just, why didn't it get set? That just,
I think we forgot about it and we just moved on, but we won't forget about the next ones.
I'd like to see one of the goals, operating those gates, doing
Right here.
quarter of the gates or a third of the gates every year.
Yeah, we kind of fell off that schedule. I want to get the gates exercise.
We haven't fallen, we're coming around.
Coming around.
Yeah, you know why? Because at the end of the year, when we broke free, that's when the transmission went in the van.
And that had the operator in it.
And that had the operator.
Great. What was the other one that I was thinking about there? Oh, painting the hydrants. The hydrants are-
So in there, I gave you a thing on painting too. Color schemes for caps, because there are many
Yeah,
different ways that they decide to scheme out those caps. So that would be up to.
It's pretty standard though, isn't it? The colors?
Well, some go by flow, some go by this, some go this.
We had a standard since 1938 or something like that. Any hydrant that was tied to a 2 to a 4-inch main had a red cap. And then
And that's on the-
anything that was to a 6 or an 8 had an orange cap.
Because that pressure is all pretty consistent, it's just the size, different sizes of the main.
Right.
I mean, I read that other thing, and it was talking about 120 PSI.
Right, they went by flow rate, some do flow rate, some do the pipe sizes, that's why I'm
Well,
asking now.
they have different elevations
Trying
in
to
their
create
pump.
something new.
That's what people who have hills and stuff like that, we don't have that. We're pretty flat.
What's our highest pressure in town? 60?
You might reach 71,
71?
yeah,
Where's that?
and you'd be close to one of the plants.
Lakewood?
Yeah. After that, you probably drop off to about 65, 60 to 65 out in the system.
Highest elevation and lowest pressure should be up on Walnut Street. That's the highest elevation in town.
Yeah, what's our lowest pressure?
So our lowest pressure would.
That's what lowest.
That's what I'm saying, what is it, what is our lowest pressure?
We missed
What
something
is
in
it up
Gary's.
there? Wait,
She didn't get stipends, that's why there's no stipends there.
Okay, but that's. so
It's
not-
just in
it's
there.
not- It's just in there as a place, okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if
It
there was
was,
something.
so that her contract and mine were mirrors, it's just hers doesn't, it's a placeholder. If I had to go with the lowest pressure, I'd go to East Street, just
Oh, at the end of the line,
Yeah.
Bridgewater in there.
or Plain Street. But
That's
East
just
is,
a restriction of the main, right, up and down.
yeah, but that would be only on the flow, that would be a friction loss, that isn't,
Should be
your
still-
lowest
still have
pressure,
pressure, though, right?
your static
have pressure,
lowest
yes.
pressure would be your
Right.
ground
They have
elevation.
pressure, they don't have any flow.
when we flush hydrants, we take the pressure away.
How much is the pressure at the Walnut Street tank?
So because the Walnut Street tank doesn't get filled all the way, the pressure isn't the greatest there. It's
It's the highest elevation in town, the
Yeah,
bridge,
yeah.
there's
it
a,
is, but we can't fill the tank.
Because it's not that we can't fill the tank, you don't fill the tank because of the control system.
Right. Because if the North Elm Street tanks had altitude valves on them, then they'd slam shut and we'd fill the Walnut Street tank. But because they don't have altitude valves, there's no way to control it. We have to put in an automated control valve
So
system.
why aren't we putting in altitude valves in those tanks?
You could, you'd have to do it down in the vaults.
Yeah.
You could, you just have the budget to do it.
I mean, we should, if we built that tank at Walnut Street to be so high and to hold so much water
Right.
for the, whatever it would cost us to do the altitude valve, that gives us, I mean, so now we paid for a tank that we're not using all the volume in.
Right,
Right.
why is that? Is it because it's built too high?
No, it's because the tanks in the
And
center
I know
fill up
we
faster.
don't fill that 1,000,000 gallons up in Walnut Street.
No, we don't. It's the hydraulic grade line, the pipes getting it there. It's
Is it
not,
something to do with elevation or more to do with the
Well,
pipe getting
it's-
it there?
It can't, if you try to pump into it, those tanks are gonna see it first, so those tanks would overflow before we could fill it, yeah.
Is that why? Yeah, because you're pushing it so far to the other end of town.
Yeah, so it would have to have a way, it's an altitude valve and the
Right.
vaults outside.
What's an altitude valve? Just like a pressure valve?
When the tank gets up high enough,
right.
Oh, it's
it shuts that valve, so no more water
It
can
sees
go
the
in.
pressure of the water.
sets it at the proper level and forces it to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then you keep pumping and Walnut fills, then you shut everything off and the tank's.
It looks at the pressure that it's feeding back, being fed back to it, and then it knows by
Yeah.
calculation that it's reached its height.
And if we're not using that tank on Walnut till its capacity, we should be looking into doing that.
they put an altitude valve in that tank on Walnut Street, but it wasn't needed because we had to,
Yeah,
we had
that's the
to
height.
open it up wide open. They thought it was gonna be just the opposite,
Yeah.
that was gonna fill first and overflow before we could get the Spring Street tank full. What happened was, The Spring Street tank overflowed before that one did.
I don't know why they would have thought that though. Most
Just
of our
Manly
water's
Street.
coming from, but most of our water's coming from here.
That's,
But I mean, that would be something to think about.
yeah, we couldn't get that tank at the beginning half full, and we had to keep adjusting that valve, and then finally we had it wide open.
Yeah.
It was just, water was pouring in, and we were overflowing the Spring Street tanks, and that tank still wasn't up to the overflow.
Next time Patrick calls you, ask him if you could think about what it might cost
Alright,
to do that. I mean, that really should be done. Because otherwise that's money we've spent that we're not using.
Let me ask you this, can we build a little building at the bottom, bring that pipe back up, put the valve in the building, and then bring the main back down?
How big are the mains going up there?
10-inch. 16 is 10.
16. 16
Remember, it
or
goes, yeah, it goes in and comes out two ways. It's not,
it's a 16 that goes in and out of the big tank. The small tank is probably an 8 or a 10 that goes out to North Elm Street. But it's a 16 that goes out to Spring Street from the bottom of the big tank. I'm just thinking if we brought it up out of the ground, I don't like things underground.
Things and vaults.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always build a building and bring it up and, you're just eliminating the vault at that point.
I can tell you that the vault in front of the big tank had the biggest spiders I've ever seen.
Well, now you got something in the ground that you're gonna have to keep pumped out, you go down and
No, that's-
maintain it and everything, and they rust, they corrode, everything's in the moisture all the time.
So which am I looking at here? So you got one tank up off, being fed up off the purple line and one tank directed in
Yes.
off the red?
Yeah, there's one right there, that's the 500,000,
Yeah.
and that's the 5 million.
So it's the purple, the 16?
Right. This map is old, I had her change the symbology on the new map, so there's actually a tank there.
Could you maybe put a check valve on the line going out to North Elm Street so it can't backfeed the tank and just feed both of them off the 16 going in, and you only need one altitude valve. We can't, if that 16's open and it does connect that close, you can't be sending much water in North Elm Street when those tanks are filling. Right, because that's looped right through and then both
Right.
lines stub off. Might be, especially if you want to do a building, that way you're only doing one. Put it to the left of where the line that feeds the 500,000 tank goes, and then just have a check valve so you can't backfeed. So North Elm's not going to keep feeding it anyway. We'll look into
So
something.
we'll see what Patrick has to say on that.
Yeah, it might be an option. Because it's a pain to fit those into existing vaults anyway.
Is it?
I mean, unless the valve's really big.
I just hate
those
the
tend to
vaults.
be big valves.
I just hate the vaults,
We only looked down in the 500,000 gallon tank has a big vault.
Yeah.
The 5 million, we got as far as the 2 big spiders and that was it. We didn't have to do it.
I don't blame you.
They were big and black and bigger than my hand.
Stupid question. Yeah. We went over this stuff about the stipends, but this is talking about built-in for the stipends, and the stipends are listed separately.
Yeah, but
They're
they're,
in here.
they won't be on hers. Yep.
No, they're not on hers, but yours are in here. But that's all still included in your
Yeah,
number.
yeah.
But they don't just spread it out, you still get.
No, it's included. I'm not paid them anymore.
Right, so why is it saying you get paid half and half?
That's the language that was there. To me, the whole thing should have came out.
Yeah, well, that's what. I mean, it says it in both places. You know,
Right.
It's just why the hell would they? I mean, if you're getting it, you shouldn't be waiting half and half. You
Right.
should be getting it. Throughout.
Yeah, it doesn't now. It just comes in my pay.
It does.
Just like, that's what Town Hall did with all of their guys. They moved all of their stipends into their pay,
Yep.
except for their overtime pay.
Who, the union guys or the
No,
Man,
the salary guys.
salary guys?
Right, I should let you sign that one first. I should sign on the bottom.
Oh, I didn't have.
Next year, if you still like me, we can take it out.
Like, just the way it read, it just looks odd. I know we had talked about it.
Right.
Yes.
Is it to accept it?
Oh, and you need a vote to,
On the contracts.
okay, hear a motion to accept both the contracts and,
Do we have to do them separate? Or, I'll make a motion, we accept Kerry's contract that we just signed.
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
I'll make a motion, we accept Wayne's contract. That we can sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Well, I guess you guys are good for another couple of years, huh?
Yeah, as long as you guys like me.
Go back.
We'll keep you around to it.
Back to the goals. You want to do Kerry's first or yours first?
You can do either or. I've been hit by rocks.
Just throwing rocks. Right, so, I mean, so
So,
right now, you do the CCR, so that's.
Yes, I do.
So it's putting it down. How about the financial?
that's something new, and I didn't get to run this by Terry, but we don't really have any indication of where our money is, and I'd like to know, like, when we do the commitment, we know how much money revenue we've taken in and how much revenue we've expended, and then where our revenue's coming from. It will help you guys, because truly, I'm not sure at some points. Rick has this thing that tie-in fees are used for this, rider fees, and yeah, that all makes sense. So now if we just start spreading it out, it helps you guys to understand that, so that, and then we have a
So that's a
bunch
brand
of it
new,
that we can look at any time.
so that's coming up with a whole brand new report.
Yes.
And then updating the emergency
And an
response.
emergency response plan is going to be key, because I think we have 2 years, and it's going to tie in with another plan that they're going to require us to have.
See, that when we made those fees, when we came up with the fees, we had to get approval to make fees from the Department of Revenue. And the Department of Revenue said, you can't make fees and just to bill people more. It has to be for a specific reason. So if they're creating a demand, they're building a house, you have a fee, but you can't use that. You're not supposed to use that for anything else. The other thing is, you can't say we're going to save that money and make this big huge surplus and then spend it later on. You go borrow the money, and as those fees come in, you pay for that well that you developed, that they're paying for. So that's a way we've always done it. And when we built the Walnut Street tank, we talked to the businesses up there, and we got voted down at town meeting. People said, we're not going to build it. We're not going to pay for it. We're not going to build a Walnut Street tank for the industrial customer. Let them build it. Well, when we talked to them, they said that their sprinkler fee, their insurance premiums would go way down. So one guy said his premium would drop. If we doubled his flow in his building, it would drop by $5,000 a year, his premium. So we said, well, if we build it, we'll, go up on the sprinkler fees. Hey, if we charge me $5,000 more a year and I can save $50,000, that's a pretty good deal. So that's what we did. And we used the sprinkler fees to pay for the mortgage on the tank. It's not coming out of the residential customers. The people who were getting the benefits of the sprinkler fee.
So I'm getting a free ride because I get the benefit of the tank.
Yeah. So so we only have really those 2 fees that we're taking 2 classes of 2 groups of people, but
Yeah, but that's kind of separate from that. That's something it'd be nice to have a summary of in writing to be able to explain to people, because you have that all in your head.
yeah.
But I think when, like,
People understood it at town
ping-pong-
meeting because people bring it up at town meeting. They say, we should have that money. The people who are building the houses are paying for the new well. We're not going to pay for it. They don't want to see their water rate going up because we're building a new well, not because we're replacing a well, but
meeting new demand.
meeting new demand, they don't want to be paying for it, and that argument is voted down a while before. So we came up with the sprinkler with the tie-in fees, and it would work.
I think you do. If you accept them, it can be something fluid. I'm going to be working on them anyways.
I mean,
So we don't really
Kerry's,
need
I
to
think,
Right.
are fine as long as, it takes one thing off you, so that delegates off you and
It takes-
Oh, this is
onto
both
her.
of them.
This is new,
But it's three,
It's the goals
basically
for both
two
of
new
Yeah,
things.
these are the top one, see if the superintendent is underneath, and then it says office manager underneath.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, that's good as far as, so that would be the three goals for Kerry to complete, would be taking those on
Yeah,
for this year to go with that, goal
Yes.
meeting schedule.
yep.
Um,
I mean, you can add more in, it's, you
No,
know.
no, I mean, I think that's
that I've heard.
you know, maybe if we move things along as
Some
we
of the things,
go.
the financial thing is big because that, you know, hit the
No,
ground.
that's something I would like to see, just because it helps me understand what's going on
Right.
with how we do the finances, because that's
Should
not,
I make
it's
a
not
motion to,
necessarily straightforward.
make a motion to approve the proposed?
Sure.
I mean, I want to go, we want to do them separately, because I want to go over something on waivers stuff.
You want to go over it first, we'll hash it out and then just approve the whole
Or do you
thing?
want to just approve Kerry's first, if you're okay
I'll
with
make a
this?
motion that we approve the office manager's, 3 goals for 2020.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
And my only issue with the ones for superintendent, and it's not to throw rocks at you, but if more than once you've come across with comments like, you came in as superintendent, you didn't really get any specific training related to doing the superintendent part of the job. I know a couple of times Tommy's talked about you delegating stuff down to the guys below you. Rick said the same thing. I'd like to see your superintendent goals, at least one, be something related to either you getting other training besides what's on your list that's specifically related like to the management part of it, or some goals about things that you can get down, like you're delegating CCR to Kerry, something that maybe you take care of a lot yourself gets delegated down. You assign one of the guys to do some specific task to get it off your plate, because that's, again, just so you get more of the management part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, and especially where you kind of seemed frustrated a couple of times when we were talking about some issue that you hadn't gotten that kind of training. So I think it'll benefit you.
I agree with that 100%. Because when I was here, I didn't do the gate operating. I implemented, but he ran it. He did all the gate operating. So now, but he shouldn't be gate operating. He's got to delegate it down and get somebody else to make sure that they do it. But I never did it. He always did it.
Yeah, I think that's just to give you more of a delegate and train foreman of the gates in town operate. Delegate and train foreman to get 25%, something like that.
Then it's off your plate. You can worry about things you need to worry about.
And I mean, stuff like that is good, but I would like to see, I don't know if through Mass Water Works or Plymouth County, I know Plymouth County Water Works has some kind of a superintendent sitting before their meetings.
See, I was looking to take a PLC, I found a course on the PLCs, and then we pay for all of the software for the SCADA program. The PLCs link to the SCADA, but I don't understand the PLCs of the problems. We have a lot of issues with our PLCs, but I'm just going to do that for fun on the side.
Well,
I'll take they do have the supervisor class.
So
I'd like, and I mean, if you want to do something with the PLCs, I think we should kind of, I mean, I wouldn't mind having that as another goal. Because you need to, if you can't delegate something that you don't know.
Right. I don't really need that as a goal. I'm going to take it
Well,
because I want
if
to.
you need to understand how things work, I mean, if you say take it on your own,
Yeah.
we're gonna pick up that and pay that for you, right?
Yeah, you're going to pay for
Yeah,
it.
all right, as long as you're not talking about, no, you're doing,
No.
all right.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve the,
But I'd like to add the goal that he completes the supervisor class.
okay.
Again, just so you have a specific thing in there. if they just teach you to delegate better.
Yeah.
So you're not running around going crazy when stuff starts going, because you can put more on other people.
So you know how when you do things and you know you're going to do them right, and you know if you're fudging something, then you know that it might come back to bite you, but it just hates letting things go, because I hate getting bitten.
Well, you have to keep an eye on them until you're sure that they're doing it the way you want it done.
Right.
That's the hard thing in the beginning, to make, when you're first doing it, but then after you know that they're doing it right, then it's off your plate. They're doing it.
Then I'll make a motion to accept those as the basic goals for superintendent for the next contract year.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
So without being a goal, we upgraded the bathrooms between the past 2 meetings.
Well, without putting GFIs in there?
Yeah. Not electrical. Well, it could be hidden. It might be out in the garage somewhere in the back panel.
What did you upgrade in the bathrooms?
We replaced everything in there, and we painted them. We fixed the ceilings because of all the water leaks we had. They had been damaged, so
How's the roof been? I want to ask you that.
we have not had a problem.
No issue at all.
No. And we finally got the squirrels.
Yeah, that roof was an issue for a while.
Oh, that roof was a issue for a
That
long
guy,
time.
I mean, he did a good
He
job.
was really good.
He was an excellent guy. It was awful to lose him.
Yep.
What happened?
He had a really good metal building guy that Dave Tweedy fell off Trojan's transfer station roof.
Really?
Yeah. Like a year after he did this.
Well, you know the alarm guy too, right?
Yeah.
It might not be a good idea to be friends
I
with
know, I'm gonna
him.
stop recommending people.
Jesus.
I know.
How much did the bathrooms cost?
If we did it, probably under $1,000.
I think Dave was like within a year of
He said
doing this
it's
job, wasn't it?
Hold up.
We did it.
Yeah, he said it was about a year.
Yeah, within a year, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Just
He did it like a week. It was really quick.
Yeah. He was really good.
And he died?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Slid off. They thought he was going to live. He landed on some sheets leaning against the building and did an operation on his back and he ended up dying the next day.
Jesus.
Right, so, Phil, what's next?
Nothing.
That's it. That's the end of the line.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Second.
I'm for that.
Next meeting is March
Next meeting is what?
18th. March 18th.
Because we already beat up on Patrick about that.
I think I'm on vacation then. 18th.